This is a tutorial on sewing seams together using backstitch. So I've got here the back from my enclosed garment and a front, and this is our shoulder seam at the top. In order to do backstitch, the first thing we need to do is put the right sides together so the wrong sides are facing. You can see that I've left a nice long tail at the end of my front shoulder, and I'm going to use that tail to sew the seam together, but you can just weave in a new piece of yarn. I've got here a nice blunt needle or bodkin. It's got a large enough eye to thread our yarn through, and the end of the needle isn't blunt, and that means it's not going to split the fibres of our yarn. You can just use a blunt tapestry needle also. When we start, you just want to identify the top of the seam. We've got our bind off edges, and these form a series of V-shaped stitches along the top of our knitting. Because there's the same number of stitches on each shoulder, provided we start at the correct place, our seams will match up beautifully if we just make sure we're not missing out any stitches. So, just going to start by attaching the shoulder to the back. And we'll just pass our needle through to the back piece, and that's secured that together. Now for here on in, what we're going to do is we're going to go forward 2 stitches and back 1 stitch. So we're going to go forward 2 stitches. This is our first stitch, and this is our second stitch. So we go through the second stitch on one side and through the second stitch on the other side. Pull the yarn through, and then we just go back 1. So we're going back 1 stitch on both sides. When you pull the yarn through, make sure you've pulled it through completely, but don't pull it tight because we don't want the shoulder seam together. Then we're going to repeat that. So we're going to go forward by 2 stitches. Here's 1 stitch, 2 stitch, and same on the other side. Forward 2 and then back 1. As you can see, I'm going through both legs of the stitch. This is important because it means that you won't get any of the horizontal bind off edge showing on the right side of the fabric after you've finished the seam. So forward 2, back 1. Sometimes I don't pull the yarn through completely because it helps me identify which stitch I've just gone through, and I pull the yarn after I've gone back 1, like so. So we're just going to repeat that all down the shoulder until we get to the end. So we're at the end now. I'm just going through the very last part of the stitch. Then I like to weave in my thread. Just do a half hitch knot. Just go around the needle once, and then pull it through. That just secures it a little bit. And then I'll just weave the yarn in. So I'm just going through the one of the legs of the bind off stitches. There we go. And if we turn our seam over, you can see how that just provides a really nice tidy edge. So we can see pretty easily the bind off just along here of the sleeve. And we're going to sew that to the body, which of course doesn't have a bind off edge. It's just got the selvage edge. But the principle is the same. We're going to go forward 2 stitches and then back 1. And we'll use the sleeve bind off edge as a marker for where to put our needle. So we're going to go forward 2 stitches, we'll miss that one, and we'll go through this one, placing our needle under both legs of the bind off edge. Then we're just going to go directly through the selvage of the body, like so. And then we're going to go back 1. So again, back through the selvage and through both legs of the first stitch on the sleeve. So again, we're going forward 2 stitches, so we'll miss out that one, go through this one, under both legs, directly across through to the body, pull that through, and then we're going back 1. Again, making sure we go under both legs of that bind off edge. Forward 2, back 1. Forward 2, back 1. Okay, and we're going to do that all across the sleeve seam, attaching the sleeve to the body. So this is looking at our backstitched sleeve seam from the right side, and you'll get a really nice tidy seam provided you're putting the needle under both legs of the bind off stitches so that none of the bind off stitches are visible from the right side.